You know what? My whole life, luck has never been a subject matter.
Okay.
The one piece of advice I would give is something I've said a few times now, and
Sure.
I'm going to stick to it. Athletes are so used to focusing on just themselves and doing their own thing and controlling their lives and having people take care of you, to then have to like express yourself to a huge platform could be pretty intimidating. The true advice I would give out of what we just talked about is
Hey everyone, welcome to the EQ&A podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Ray, and the CEO and founder of EQ. EQ is an influencer marketing agency hyper-focused and record-breaking. We're super excited about all the cool first-of-their-kind things that we've been able to do. And so this podcast is going to talk about all things influencer marketing, branding, strategy, social, digital media, athlete marketing. We're dabbling in the world of all of those things, and we're so excited that you're here to join us for our very first episode. And so here at EQ, we have a tagline. It's called Winners Win. And we only want to have winners on this podcast. I'm so excited for our first winner and our very first guest, Brandi Wilkerson. So let me share a little bit about who Brandi is. Brandi is a Swiss American raised in Canada. Brandi is a Canadian Olympian. She's a beach volleyball player, and she's a historic Olympian in that she's the first biracial woman to have ever represented Team Canada in her sport, which is massive. Brandi's not only the most followed beach volleyball player in the world, but also the most branded, and she's the most undersized blocker in the world, standing at only 5'11". So excited to have her here. Let's give it up for Brandi Wilkerson. Yay! Cue music! Yay! Yes. So excited!
Here we go!
Sit down, let's do it!
Here we go!
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited you're here.
I am even more excited to be here. The world needs this. The world needs more of you and your wisdom.
I'm pumped.
Oh
my goodness, I'm pumped. I'm so excited. We have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So we're just going to get into it.
I know, I want.
I needed to have you as the first guest for so many reasons, but yeah, I think there's so much stuff that we can talk about and share and give insights to people. So I'm pumped. Yeah. I think as a starting point, I introed you in, but I really like to hear what you have to say about yourself. Who is Brandi? Let's start with that. Put you on the spot.
I know. I'm sure people love that question.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yep.
Who am I? So yes, like you said, biracial, multi-race, beach volleyball athlete.
Yep.
But I'd like to think of myself as an explorer,
sure,
a student of life, and someone that seeks to create and build and conquer and win, honestly, at everything that I do. So if that's something I could say as describe myself, then I guess
there you
that's
go.
It. Yes.
And winners win, baby. Okay, I love it. So how did you get to where you are today? And I know that's like a loaded question, but honestly, how do you feel, if you could kind of sum it up in a couple paragraphs, like how did you get to where you got to today, being an Olympian, being the most undersized, starting so late to the game? Yeah. How did you get here?
If I had to just shorten that long story. But I mean, relatively speaking, for a lot of athletes, it might be a short story since I came into sports pretty late.
Sure.
And looking back and reflecting,
I
think the theme that has come clearly is that I've always welcomed and appreciated the challenges that come with growing and with evolving and with trying to do best in the world type of things.
Sure.
I think if I hid from that, if I didn't get creative, if I didn't seek help and support, and if I didn't have like sheer belief in myself,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be very difficult to get to where I am in that time.
Yep.
So I think a combination of all of those things, plus just genuinely staying authentic to the things that are important to me and that make me happy, listening to myself, listening to that inner wisdom. And again, this is like a ebb and flow, you know, we're learning, we try it again, then we find out something new, and like, that's why I said, like, those challenges, those opportunities, I'm like welcoming that versus I hope things don't mess up and I hope things stay status quo. I'm like actually excited when difficult opportunities come, because that means I'm getting somewhere.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love one of those pieces I want to pull out what you said is authenticity. What an interesting word in the social media game.
Oh, yes.
Right? So authenticity is one of those things that so many people talk about, which is like, is this authentic? Is this genuine? So, I mean, how do you feel that you're perceived on social? I'm curious.
You know what? That is something I've been curious about as well. I think there's ideally the ways I want to be perceived, or maybe some of the ways I curate how I am. As authentic as those pieces are on social media, they're still just pieces.
Sure.
You know, it's not all of me.
Yeah.
But geez, I don't know. I honestly think
we're getting into it.
I'm a weirdo.
Right.
I really do. And I hope so, because I am.
Oh,
but then I'd be pretty in line with myself. But I don't know what people think.
I think authenticity is such an interesting thing, because I feel like I have this conversation with a lot of young influencers.
Yeah.
And I'll say, like, take a note out of your book of showing different sides of your life, because, and you know, people will always be like, well, you know, stay in a niche to be successful on social media.
Yeah.
Grind it out. Be a beauty, whatever.
Yeah.
Be a foodie, whatever.
Yeah.
And be authentic. But I go, but aren't people multi-layer? Like, aren't people being their authentic self and showing 16 different versions of them? Because aren't people complex? So I've always had that battle with, like, authenticity and social.
Yes.
And that's where I feel like if people, from an influence perspective, show their well-rounded self, they'll do better. But then we get that feedback of like, oh, but then the algorithm's not going to pick you up because you're not, you know?
It's totally true. You said it well. I think there's the human innateness to want to categorize and label.
Yes.
You belong to this. I know this. This is comfortable. This is familiar. Once you start mixing and matching, people are like, what's going on with this person?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, maybe why low-key I hope people think I'm weird, because I don't want to be categorized into one thing.
Exactly.
But it's not easy to do. This is something I had to grow into accepting of myself.
Yeah.
It's not easy to say I'm okay with people not liking me. I'm okay with people not understanding me. I'm okay with maybe it doesn't hit, maybe it does. Obviously, you're going to see and want to favor things that do work, because social media is still an amazing platform to make a career and connect with people. And if that's what's working for right now, do it. But if it's at a cost of closing off another part of you, then the long-term worth isn't there. And eventually people will see that it's kind of like a tired out story that you are just now grasping to make a so it's a good short-term strategy, but if you're thinking long-term, the diversification, just like you would with your stock portfolio, is just gonna do better.
100%. And I think it's like so interesting, because I feel like people are trying to figure out how should they show up on social? Should they show up the same way as who they genuinely are, you know, in real life? And I think you spoke about something, you know, wanting to be liked, because isn't that the entire thing about social?
Right.
Wanting to be liked, to grow a social following so more people can hit subscribe or hit follow.
Yes.
So it's so interesting, because the entire thing is like feed what you think people would want.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, but then also, but be yourself.
Yes, it's hard.
It's hard, right? So like even getting into pros and cons of having a social media presence. I mean, that's an interesting segue into that. What are obviously the pros? I mean, and I'd like to hear from you. What do you feel the pros of having a social media following are, other than monetization?
Yes.
And then what are the actual cons? Like, let's have an actual conversation, because I think like nobody, and I don't have a big social media following, so I don't have to deal with any of these things. But like, what are the cons? Yeah.
Well, to start with the pros, like you said, other than monetization, just a very cool place. For me, personally, I've always been a more creative, artistic person.
Sure.
And this has allowed me to express myself in an artistic way, whether it's visually in the stuff I'm taking pictures of or are in, or it's the way I edit in terms of lighting and exposure and just like the feel I want to have for what the image is. It's still a form of creating art. It's creating a story.
Sure.
Outside of that, I think, like you said, you know, it's hard to be yourself and be authentic and do you and all this. And I think I've always been doing whatever I want. I've been posting whatever I wanted. Yeah. It's like, if you think it's weird, it's cool, whatever. It's just like, this is what I felt in the moment.
Yep.
But then when you start getting that following or you get those brands and they start backing you up, and the whole time I've just been doing me, and now I have these brands backing it. Yeah. It's kind of that validation of like, hey, you doing you is loved, it's liked, don't change that. So it's actually encouragement for me to continue to be my authentic self, because it's gaining traction. Well, it took time, as it should, because it's like truly authentic. I'm not looking for a fast like attention. It's in a weird way given me a more healthy validation, because I haven't changed, and the following is still going. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is working, because I mean, this is just a regular day for me. This is what I would normally say. So that's really nice. And then obviously connecting to people all over the world, like getting messages, people asking for help or advice or support, or just genuinely nice things to say. Who doesn't appreciate that, especially when you're playing sports and you're traveling the world and people are coming to watch you, and this is a way that they can get to know you.
That's so good. It's I think but it's not all positive all the time.
No, it's not.
Right? Because we hear, and I've heard from people, again, I don't have this problem in particular because I'm not a social media influencer and have a mass following, where people are going out of their way to like write negative things or send me messages things. Have you ever experienced that on a heightened level, do you feel, or not really?
I have been very lucky to not experience a lot of negativity. No weird photos, at least nothing I've noticed. And maybe there will be one or two comments. And I think with sports betting, people losing money might get a little mad. They'll say something a little bit mean.
Like, why the hell did you lose?
Yeah, or like, you suck, or like, you were I had someone say the weirdest, and again, sometimes it's just lost in translation, so I'm like, this is now hilarious. But I remember one or two things. I think the only time I was very shocked at some of the comments was around the BLM period, and I was posting heavy about my beliefs, not to like be political. And again, people don't really like athletes being political or having things to say. So there was some friction there. I did see people having arguments on my page. That was interesting to see. The comments, again, my experience has been like 95% great. So that's good.
Positive.
Yes. And in terms of just like people and them coming. But some other, I guess, cons.
What would you say are some of the cons that you're experiencing like today? Because I always feel that people, at least what I'm noticing from a lot of younger influencers and younger athletes, is there's like a heightened insecurity. Where now, because they earn their living, it's like I'm super conscious of every single thing I say and every single thing I post, because I grew up on this platform where generationally we didn't necessarily grow up on these platforms.
Oh, for sure.
So that's a lot of the cons that I'm hearing. I don't know.
Well, to build off of that, it's just an extra layer of mind space. To everything that you're doing in reality. Now you have another just world that you're living in on top of that. And that is work. Whether it's like literally putting together the content, or it's just thinking about it, or it's dealing with that, or it's curating your image, or it's making sure your message is clear, because again, these things can be used against you. They could be brought up again. They could, like, they never die. So you have to be so certain about what you're putting. And again, as the following for me grows and I'm starting to like really appreciate everything that comes, I have those moments of like, oh my God, I feel very vulnerable. Because I'm being authentic. So that's an interesting test to be like, here, let me put this selfie like I did today. I put a selfie out. It took
Let's
me like,
pull up that selfie.
No, let's not pull out the selfie. But I posted a selfie because I'm like, well, what the hell? I just feel like doing this. And I hesitated for a while because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like putting myself out there to be judged,
right?
To be like, whether people are saying it or not, like I'm putting myself out there to hundreds of thousands of people.
Sure.
And that's interesting. That's
Isn't
like
that crazy?
An emotional battle that now you're attached, a little bit.
Where I'm like innately a private person.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, our business is out there, our business stuff is out there, but like my personal page, good luck, it's private.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people who try to follow me, no. You know
I
what
have
I mean?
a weird paradox with it though, because again, you're seeing parts of me. They're very real parts, but they're parts.
But they're still parts, yeah.
And then there are real parts that you absolutely will not see on social media. So it almost gives me like a cover to still keep some of my private protected stuff.
Of course.
Will, as time goes, get less and less. I don't know. I'd hope to keep something for myself.
Of
but
course.
It is a weird privacy thing for sure.
Do we want to be in your DMs?
Yeah.
Don't answer that.
Instagram's also basically a dating app. That's a pro and a con.
There you go. Okay, really spin off here. What is your relationship with luck? I'm going to let that land for a second. Yeah. I am so curious to hear your thoughts on this because I have an interesting relationship with luck. I'm not going to answer until you do. Ooh. So what is your relationship with luck? However that makes sense to you. This is a good one.
It is. You know what? My whole life, luck has never been a subject matter.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just within my family or whatever, but it's not something I relied on.
Okay.
It's not something I thought about.
Okay.
It's not something I said, like, oh, that was lucky. Like, I think I have always lived a very intentional and methodical life.
Sure.
And not to say in a controlling way.
Yep.
But I think I believe in timing more.
Okay.
And my dad...
And some people might say, oh, timing and luck. Oh, isn't that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I think luck gives this sense of...
It's not in your...
Not maybe control, because I don't think timing's in my control either. But luck is very, like, superficial to me. I think timing, there's like a divine belief that things will come together as they were meant to.
Okay.
In whatever form or shape or lesson or however you need to show up in that moment, the things will come together. And that's why... And luck to me just seems a little too... loose, like once in a while it shows up. Your timing, I think, is how everything moves in a story, in your career, in your life path. In a more simple way, I think my dad used to say luck was, I think a lot of people do, that whole
hard work,
preparation means opportunity. And so there's a level of still like an equation that happens there. So it's again not so loosey-goosey. Did I intentionally prepare for opportunities that showed up for me? I think like how I got into the sport, how I got certain opportunities. You look back and you're like, wow, that moment really was, it was like that timing, like, me being there at that time. Like, what if I chose this that day?
The stars aligned.
You know? Yeah. Again, I wouldn't, luck just doesn't do it justice, I don't think.
Yeah, no. And I asked that because I feel like in my life, this is a little sticking point, I've been told a lot like, oh, you're so lucky. Oh, you're just a lucky person. I don't know. And I've been told, oh, you must live around horseshoes. Like I've just been told for that. So I'm always interested to gauge other people's view on luck because I'm of the belief that and we call it like will it, kill it, and we're not talking about manifestation here. Willing things into existence and saying I'm going to do this, but there's intentional planning behind it. And I think with any of the athletes that we've ever worked with, any of the influencers, any of the brands, or any of the things that we've intentionally said we're going to do this. But it takes a lot of work, and here's all the steps, and then you go and do it. Any of the really successful people I've been around, and they'll talk about luck, but in a different way. So it's interesting. I'm going to gauge everybody's
I'm very interested
relationship
to see how
on luck.
Thinks about luck. It's not my favorite. I think if someone was like, "Oh, you're so lucky," I would honestly be a little bit discouraged. Like, give me more credit than that.
100%. So no, it's interesting. But okay, tell us something that you feel like would be a shocker for people to know about you. What's something that's not on social media?
Tell tap
anything?
into that private life.
Right? Let's tap in there.
What do you think people don't know? I don't know.
Don't ask me. Tell me something I don't know. What's something people would be shocked? Go.
Okay, let me think.
Do people know that you have a jewel on your tooth?
Do they know I want to buy a grill? I'm going to buy a grill soon? That I'm a low-key gangster? No, I'm kidding.
That's hilarious.
I think people would be shocked to know. Because I have to assume I know what people think of me, which I'm like, oh, who knows? But
sure.
I mean, I watch zero TV shows. I know nothing about pop culture. I'm so out of the loop there. I'm like an old lady that way.
Okay.
I don't even have a working TV, and I have vinyls, and I like reading a lot, and I spend most of the time binge watching TED Talks and reading about quantum physics. That's
I'm not joining you for
doing.
that. Yeah, I'm not joining you for that. But
I don't know.
Okay,
if anyone knows
that. That's good. Okay, no, that's good. I don't think anybody knows that stuff about you. Okay, good. Thanks for sharing. So when we talk about, let's kind of dabble back into volleyball for a second.
Yeah.
So beach volleyball, you didn't start with beach volleyball. You started with indoor volleyball at York University, and then you went into beach.
Yes.
And so just quickly talk about why did you do that?
Yeah.
And like, why do you think volleyball for you in general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, firstly, volleyball was narrowed down kind of in high school.
Okay.
I played 1 year before university club volleyball.
Okay.
People honestly, volleyball was because other people encouraged me to play it. I would not have opportunities without them.
Sure.
But I kind of had to pick between volleyball and basketball, and something about volleyball was more enticing.
Sure.
And then I had an amazing indoor varsity career at York, but I played a position, right side or offside, if you're or opposite if you're American. That I feel like I wasn't utilized enough, and I wasn't learning enough. And the non-PG answer is that I'm not like the biggest team player.
Understood. Enough said.
And it
wasn't about you.
Yeah. There were too many people on the court.
Too many people. We weren't getting the ball enough. It was confusing.
No, I got the ball, but I didn't get to explore skills. Like, I only block, hit, serve.
Sure.
Like, I didn't get to pass. I didn't get to set. I didn't get to learn the strategy. I was just like, I felt like bored.
Yep.
And then I played beach volleyball, and I think I kind of sucked at first. And I'm like, wow, this is hard.
Yeah.
So I love this.
Yeah.
And that's what got me roped in. And then by the time I went to my first international tour, it was kind of a surreal feeling. You're wearing a shirt representing Canada, like all of the country, this beautiful island, playing against other world-class athletes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Measuring up pretty well for my first, and I'm like, I think I can be the best of the world at this. So
it was that easy.
It was. I decided
I made
that
a
first
decision.
tournament.
Yeah.
Honestly, I remember the girl. I played her against a girl. This was probably the tallest girl I had ever met. She was like 6'5" or something.
Wow.
In Mexico, she was the best at the time. And I remember hitting like a shot over her block or something like that. It was like something nuts that I didn't think I could even do.
Right.
And I was like, I think there's something here for me.
There you go.
And I want to see how far I can take it.
So you're 5'11", you go up against a girl that's like 6'5". Do you think other young blockers in the game of beach volleyball and volleyball in general, if they're 5'11", do they have to be super athletic? Because you're super athletic and you jump out of the gym and you jump out of the sand. So not everybody has that. Should people that are your height not attempt to be a blocker? What's your thought? Like, is it like...
Yeah, I think maybe years ago.
Okay.
If we're being frank, because that's all we do on this, I wouldn't advise it if you're not very athletic and you can't compensate somehow. Physically speaking, but the game is changing so much.
Okay.
It's a much more dynamic game, and honestly, these super tall girls that don't move very well, I think are getting phased out a little bit. Mark my words, I said what I said about all you tall girls. Obviously, being tall and athletic is the prime time situation, but at the end of the day, everybody has to be athletic. Is what I'm saying.
So you see the sport shifting.
Yes. So I think there's room for some undersized players. I think there's room for people who are willing to understand strategy, reading, have the other skills that come with blocking, not just physically jumping and blocking the ball. There's so many other things you have to do in that role. If you can excel in those things, you can make up for that with your height, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, like for me, I mean, I never played volleyball.
Yeah.
But even for me in the sport that I really enjoyed that I played, it was rugby. There was no height requirement. So basketball and volleyball are one of those things that height matters. I think for rugby, it really wasn't. It was like be strong physically, and then like have pace when you're running and like have a strategic mindset.
Yeah.
I was pulled over to rugby because I played basketball. I played a position called point guard, and that was kind of the play-making position. And then when I moved over to rugby, they were like, you're going to play fly half, which is essentially the point guard of rugby. So to your point, from a strategy perspective, that's cool. If you were to walk into the gym at York today looking at young volleyball players, like, what is it that you're looking for? You're putting together Brandie's, dream team. You're looking for what? What do you think young volleyball players need to have, and what do you think is going to make them stand out?
A level of self-awareness is number one for me. That self-coaching. Obviously athletic ability, like that natural smoothness in their movement, even if it's the wrong movement or if it's, they're learning it. Confidence and positivity. And then, just like grit. People who are excited to compete and excited to challenge themselves. And you can kind of see that in how seriously or not seriously people take mundane drills. Then you can see who's really committed.
There you go.
And who's not.
There you go. And I think that applies to not just sports. I think that applies to business. And when you have people, even for us as we're growing at the company, we're looking at bringing people in. And to your point, those mundane tasks that aren't as exciting, right, that aren't flashy, but can you put your head down and can you get it done, and can you work on that brief, because that's super important. And yes, it's not going to film it, and yes, it's not going to the show, but it's a piece that really, really matters. I think that applies in so many ways. That's great. Okay, cool. What would be your number one piece of advice to young athletes that want to be an Olympian? What would be, and I know there's many pieces of advice, but if there was one, what do you think it would be?
The one piece of advice I would give is something I've said a few times now, and I'm going to stick to it, which is being your number one fan. Like, you have to be the biggest fan of you before anybody else is, before people notice you. Like, people will come once you show them the way, but you have to believe in yourself and not in that corny, or else who else will? Yes, that, but quite frankly, there's going to be a lot of voices and external things, and even sometimes your own internal doubts and insecurities that will try and take you down. But you have to see it bigger and more vivid and more true before others. Or you're not going to get anywhere.
No, I think that's important. I think that's key, and I think it's so competitive. It's such a competitive thing that people are grinding out to do, and there's going to be so many people in your way. You have to believe in yourself before anybody else can.
Even before you see it somewhere else, even before it's a real job, even if you're trying to make up a job, you got to be so honed in on this job that you want, even if it's not out there.
100%. And even dot lining that back again to the business world, where again, when you start a business, I started EQ and I was by myself in my house. I said it out loud as a real thing, but I think if you don't believe it and start putting it out there for yourself, nobody will. And so many have that story, right? So I think that's great. I want to dive into a little more social media stuff here. And so what do you think the advantages are, this will be fun, of brands, partnering with athletes over influencers? Because you're not really a true play influencer.
No.
And what I mean, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way. You are an influencer, you have influence, you have a social media following, but you're also an athlete. There's people who are just influencers that don't play sports, right? And there's people that are influencers that are also singers, etc. What do you think the advantage of a brand is working with an athlete versus an influencer, in your opinion?
I mean, my biased opinion, athletes are the best.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, outside of the fact, what we have for an advantage right now is this is being an athlete is a legitimate career path that people aspire to or have aspired to do at some point in their lives. I think being an influencer is still relatively new.
Sure.
It's totally a career, and it will be a career for real. But right now, athletes still have that edge.
Yep.
And with that, they have this really loyal and committed fan base.
Sure.
And I think there's a level of, again, authenticity.
Sure.
Because athletes are putting themselves in high pressure situations, are challenging themselves, are facing like real day-to-day things.
Sure.
Carrying a lot of weight and a lot of beliefs and a lot of culture and a lot of stories.
Sure.
That millions of people are brought together for. So sports has that beauty of bringing so many different people into one common goal. And to be a face of one of those things, I think will always be an advantage for any brand that wants to align with something that's like transcending differences in the world.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, and it's not to put you on the spot, because I think we could have this argument back and forth about like, oh, athletes are better, influencers are better. I think they both bring a super unique lens and their advantages. And I think, to your point, it's that you're an expert in your field, obviously, and if brands want to align to sports adjacent things, it makes a ton of sense. And then also, to your point, it's that dedicated following and people that are truly interested and they're fan of you, right? And the sport you play. And then I think influencers on the flip side would go, oh, okay, but people are following me and I don't necessarily do anything. That means they really like me. They're not just following me because of, so that's the, you know what I mean? The other side of it. What would you say are like cons? Because we hear so many interesting things from brands, right?
I'm sure.
About aligning with athletes. No, we do. And we've experienced it ourselves. Somebody like you who is, as you gave your arts background, culturally, like somebody who's aesthetically pleasing as it relates to the content they put out. We hear a lot about athletes. Brands will say to us, honestly, you don't want to be a part of those conversations. They'll say, brands will say, working with an athlete, the content, like, it's just so stiff. It's so awkward. It's just bizarre. I don't want to align with athletes. And we agree and go, but there are those exceptions. And so outside of content being maybe not as high quality, and I don't think that's the insight with you at all, what would you say, at the top of your head, if there's any cons that you could identify about brands working with athletes?
Yeah, I mean, the content creativity is huge.
Sure.
But I think that's stems from the time management.
Sure. Because you have a full-time job.
Fully dedicated to your sport and being the best in the world at what you do. To then find ways to creatively express that. And you don't even have
a second.
The physical energy.
Sure.
Sometimes you're training 4-5 hours a day. Every day, and then you're like, well, at what point do I like put a smile on and like do this?
Of course.
I can see some athletes, and then a lot of them are pretty shy and introverted. Athletes are so used to focusing on just themselves and doing their own thing and controlling their lives and having people take care of you. To then have to like express yourself to a huge platform could be pretty intimidating. Versus when you're performing, doing your sport that you feel like you're an expert at. So you're so used to feeling like you're an expert, and then you got to perform in front of a camera, and that's not where you're an expert. Sometimes there's like a little bit of like that comfortability that needs to be practiced. Like you would answering interviews or that's anything off the court, you need to practice it, and some people just
makes complete sense.
Didn't get enough practice.
No, that makes complete sense. Agreed. No, I think, and again, we could go back and forth, but I think both are super, super valuable and bring a different lens. So you've achieved, like, in terms of active, beach volleyball players in the world on social media, you're the most followed. And so how do you think you've been able to do that? And I know, and it's funny because we have these conversations all the time with hundreds of influencers and people that we're working with, and they'll go, okay, what are the tips and tricks? Hey, EQ, I need to know, what are the tips and tricks to get
the magic
to get 1 million followers. I said, listen, buddy, you think I'd be sitting here with you if I knew how to get 100 million followers? Bye. I'd go be an influencer. Like, are you kidding me? So there is no secret sauce. Let's call a spade a spade. So I want to kind of get a little bit of that bullshit out of the way. But what are tangible things that you felt like have contributed to getting a bigger social media following, growing a bigger social media following? What do you think some of those things are?
think the first thing that comes to mind is like taking care of the content.
Sure.
Like putting aesthetically pleasing, like you said, content out. You have to be mindful of what it looks like, if it's well done, if it's good quality, if it's well edited, if it, like, you're still creating something that's visually pleasing. And if you think just doing the bare minimum stuff, just posting a picture of you will do it, it won't. Like, you're gonna have to put a little bit more effort into it. I think there's an interesting relationship in any kind of advertising where you want things to be relatable, but not like too relatable, because then it's like, then it looks like I could just do this. People say that about art all the time. When you see abstract art and you're like, I could paint that. So it's like, there's a level. That's
how I feel. But like, you pay $1 million for that? I'll come to my house. I'll paint that for you.
So if you saw a bunch of influencers doing bare minimum stuff, you'd be like,
sure, I can do this too.
I don't get that. So there has to be some level of effort that's beyond bare minimum. But obviously still relatable, because when you take it too far, then people just lose like
that balance,
and you're just like, okay.
And it's like, what is that balance between relatability? We have these conversations all the time, and there'll be brands that also say, hey, you know, we want to work with people who, again, have aesthetically pleasing content, but everything's filmed on a Canon X blank worth millions of dollars, but you know, but it needs to be relatable, but people need to feel close to them. So it's kind of that balancing act of like, how do you get there? Because you want people to aspire and be inspired and want to, again, one of the biggest things that people are doing on social media, buying, the reasons why people buy things across the board. First reason's habit, second reason's social copying. So they want to copy what others are doing, essentially. So it's kind of like looking at others and going, okay, I want to be like them. That's the Kardashian effect. Right? Which again, we had this conversation. Love me, hate me, I don't care. I like Kim Kardashian. And the reality is, from a brand perspective, they've done a good job.
Absolutely.
Period, point blank.
No, they've done more than a good job. They've changed an entire
industry. Exactly.
Of culture.
Exactly. So it's like, for you, okay, so back to your point about definitely wanting to like make aesthetically pleasing content. Anything else that you think's tangible, you know?
I mean, with that, I think the true advice I would give out of what we just talked about is, you want to leave, like, if you're posting something, you want to feel inspired and also not detached from it.
Sure.
So if you can look at something and feel like, okay, this is like what I would inspire to either look like or feel like or whatever, but I don't feel like I've completely lost myself.
Sure.
And like, I don't even recognize this person anymore. Then I think you've hit that middle ground.
Okay.
Because you yourself are feeling that. So other people will feel that.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
That's that advice. Yeah. You want to just like really, you know, feel good about what you're posting.
I love it. No, that's great. Okay, so we want to do a little thing called behind the sponsored post. So we want to kind of dig into dissecting a little bit. Some of the, obviously you have a lot of brand deals, you do a lot of different things with brands. Let's talk about, there's one in particular you've done recently, and we want to pull it up. Let's pull it up.
Oh dear. So kava is something I use regularly before bed. It literally sits here next to my bedstand, so I don't have to think about it. And you know that feeling when you get cozy and you just want to relax and let everything go? I find that kava is really good at that. And the first time I tried it, there's a bit of this sensation in your mouth, so I wasn't used to that, but then it just becomes something that is just so relaxing and gives you that escape to go to sleep and get your day sorted and all of that. So kava has such a deep, ancient history to it. I love it so much that I always use the 4 ounces. It's easy to travel with. I'm always covered. I don't have to worry about running out, and it lasts much longer.
So basically, it's a sponsored post that you've done with a brand called Herb Farm, and I see you're kind of like sitting in a bed, and you're holding this thing, and it's called kava. And so, firstly, talk to us a little bit about like the actual making of this post. What was going on there? Because or did you just like shoot it and like that's literally how it came together, or was there other things happening.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk
Like
about
you mean
that.
the photo and actually taking this photo?
Yeah, like actually taking like those videos because
Yes.
it was like a video.
Yes.
So like, what was like you were in a bed and you were like mixing stuff. So like, just get people into the background of that. Like, it's if they were there. Share a little bit about actually creating that post, and then we want to talk about like, what did you want people to get from that / feel from that, and do you feel like you achieved that?
Yes.
Right. So like, let's kind of dig in.
So to be clear, it's the Portland made one?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Wow, yeah. No, that's a great question because I think people should know there was a ton of work that happened behind that.
Sure.
And it wasn't like a natural, like, this is how I go to sleep and wake up. And I hope people could feel that again, feel that balance where it's like, okay, I guess she did work, but like it doesn't seem totally made up.
Got it.
So I had to fly down to Portland to work with Herb Farm, which is one of my favorite sponsors, and I mean, I love them all, obviously, but this one I use obviously every day. Yeah. And kava is another ingredient that I have always known about and loved. So again, right off the bat, these are things that I genuinely like. Sure. So it's easy for it to radiate through what I'm doing. Yeah. Which I think is another key thing that you should probably look into if you're going to be working with sponsors. Yeah. And then so flew down, we had a whole day shoot, had our whole team out there, had photographers, videographers, had the CEOs, had all these people. Yeah. I think in that bedroom while I'm laying in the bed, decided what we were going to wear, strategically placed everything, made everything look very aesthetically pleasing, had to move books around, whatever it was. Yeah. Positioning, hair, makeup. And then I think I had 4 people standing in front of me during that. Okay. And some of them, I'm laughing, I'm having a good time in between taking photos. Like, this was an enjoyable experience, though, at the end of the day. It wasn't something that felt like high pressure, didn't feel absolutely abnormal. Of course, it's hilarious that I'm in a bed that's not mine with 4 people and one of them with a camera in my face. Sure. That's not natural. Sure. But what is how much I love the product, how I would use it, how do I send my message, and I'm around people that I work with and I genuinely like. Sure. So it was a mix of a little bit of everything, I guess.
Interesting. No, I think that gives people a good picture into, looking at the video going, oh, wow, there was a lot of effort applied to that. And so let's talk a little bit about what was the goal of this sponsored post? What do you feel like you wanted people to get out of it? Yeah. Because obviously the brand's partnered with you for a reason to push a message. Yeah. So what do you think, or what was it for this post in particular?
I mean, the message, I think, was clear in what the product is. Sure. In the first place, how to use it. Sure. When to use it. Yeah. Some ideas. Yeah. And how to, create a space where people can insert themselves into that reality. Got it. So it's like, okay, I see that she's there. I can see myself in bed using this. Like, just making it absolutely clear that this is so applicable to you, the viewer. Yeah. And very attainable. Like, it's not beyond anyone's reach, which is ideal when you're trying to, sell and teach people.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah. So what is, so kava, and what do you use it for?
Yeah.
Like, or why do you use it?
So kava is a root plant. Okay. It has a very long, ancient, ancestral heritage. It's been used for generations and generations, both in like very natural, holistic medicine, but now in more modern scientific ways where it's been distilled and taken care of and potent enough to use just a couple droplets. So you would take these drops, put it in your water, your tea, or whatever the case is, and it really helps you get for me, a deeper sleep. Okay. It's not going to like knock you out. It's not one of those, but once you've fallen asleep, I feel like I can truly be rested. You're not waking up so many times at night. Maybe you have dreams sometimes, maybe whatever the case is, it's just a more deep sleep. Interesting. And it's very easy. But I would tell and warn anyone trying it to not be surprised, because the first time you have it, there's a bit of like maybe a numbing taste. It's an interesting root plant for sure. Interesting. But it doesn't last, and you get used to it and you pretty much never feel it. But for the first time, maybe
it was intense.
It would be new for some people for sure, but worth trying. Oh my goodness. Especially if you want some good sleep, and it's a pretty easy thing to do.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's a good behind the sponsor post. You've dug in. You've told us all the details. So I think, that's great. It's good insight to people. So for sure. Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about you on the sponsored branded side, being, the most branded athlete. not only in Canada, but from a beach volleyball perspective. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do you feel that you got there? Naturally, obviously, being authentic on social media.
Yeah.
Do you feel like performance played a part in that, yes or no? How much of performance versus social versus timing versus, like, tell a bit of that story.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, that's still something I struggle to understand, whether performance is everything.
Okay.
Because I think growing up in the sport and trying to find my path, I was seeing athletes that were not nearly as successful getting sponsors. So I was like, there's something there.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's undeniable. If you are a winner and you are the best, people want to associate yourself to you.
Perfect.
So I choose to look at optimistically, where it's not the end of the world if you're not winning everything.
Yeah.
There's still opportunity, but let's keep our eye on the prize here. This is the goal, is to be the undeniable best.
Yeah.
That the conversations are much shorter with these sponsors. The education is much shorter with these people, and you want people knocking on your door versus the other way around. So that's always the goal. I think how I got here. Yeah. Yes, putting in a lot of hard work. Yes, staying authentic. Yes, staying very clear with my vision. I think when I started the sport, I always knew I was going to make sure I was a professional at this. Yeah. And be treated like a professional, even though it was not the current reality. Sure. Before. It was not the reality. Yeah. And at the same time, it's surrounding yourself with the right people. I had multiple agents. I've tried different things. I had to learn from them what I liked, what I didn't like, what worked, what didn't work, what I needed to do. Yeah. And took it seriously. Sure. Understanding that this is a huge part of being an athlete as well, and accepting that responsibility. So as long as I continue to learn and continue to find the people who are also willing to teach me and guide me and vouch for me, then it kind of just came together.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Let's talk about the pros and cons of agents, because that's such a touchy subject for athletes. So many athletes go, do I need an agent? I shouldn't even use an agent. Should I use an agent? Oh, I had a bad experience, or that's great, like, etc. Yeah. So I think pros and cons of agents in your mind. Let's have that candid conversation, because I'm your agent.
I was going to say, are we allowed to say that?
It's fine. No, but honestly, let's have an honest conversation. Because it is what it is. Yeah. So pros and cons of agents in the athlete world in your mind, and has it been better or worse experience based on what's gone on in past, right?
I mean, I usually like to take like whatever you do is fine. But this one, honestly, if you want to take yourself seriously, you absolutely need an agent. It's undeniable, especially in sport, and I'm sure in a lot of other fields. But it's just that in every other aspect, I do not strength coach myself. I hire a strength coach. I have a nutritionist. I have experts in their field to guide me and help me. Yeah. An agent, and luckily my agent is more than an agent, obviously, other than a friend and someone, but like, you are a brand manager, you're an entrepreneur, you're a big mind that I hit the jackpot. Thank you. Other agents I've worked with have been amazing people, have seen opportunities, but to me weren't doing enough because I wanted something more creative, something with some people who just wanted it for themselves too. Sure. And cared about their own investment and their own growth, and weren't just going through the motion. Got it. And that took some realization for me too, that I did not want to be an athlete that was just going through the motion. So again, it's just pairing up with people with the same values as you. Yeah. An agent is going to be someone that will help create that inaccessibility that you need. Yeah. If you are trying to be someone of influence, you can't reach every single person face to face, but there's someone on your team that will continuously preach your values and speak up for you. And honestly, you have also helped me understand myself and understand the impact I have and build confidence. And for me, before even meeting you, an agent was going to be someone that was going to be my best friend, because I wanted more from the sport and I wanted more from the culture. Yeah. And it's only the people who are going to attach themselves with brands, because at the end of the day, the money does matter. Of course. The visual representation matters, and you are someone that's an expert at doing that. and you can teach me, and you can make it do. And it's like you win, I win mentality. Then we're both very much invested.
Absolutely.
So if you don't have those kind of people in your circle that want it as badly for themselves as you want it for you, and you are a top world-class athlete, then it's like,
what are we doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's for young athletes, like, I think it's that education around the value out of agents, but so many people have had bad experiences and bad representation. And to your point, people who aren't necessarily just self-motivated, because innately agents fundamentally don't earn money unless they earn their athletes money. So in my mind, I've always thought, like, this person should be the biggest self-starter because you're not going to make any money unless you make that person money. So I think, young athletes, you should seek out representation. You have to find the person that makes the most sense for you, and then also understand you. Like fundamentally,
what
so
you want.
Because to your point, the agent's job is to articulate the athlete's value prop. To the brands and to the sponsors or whomever, and make sure they get it. If they don't get it, we keep it pushing. So I think that's important, and I don't think I see enough of that.
And if I had to give advice to my younger self about all of this, is if I feel like something is wrong or something is off, then change it.
There you go.
You stop waiting for it to be better, or stop having these expectations that aren't being met, and then just like making excuses. Because like you said, these should be self-starters. Like, you would not team up with someone that wasn't a self-starter. So if they're not, that's cool. Just keep it pushing. Find a different one. Like, change is necessary, and you have to just keep doing it until it's absolutely right, and it's worth it. It's worth all the hassle.
100%. No, that's good. I agree. But no, I think it's important, and I think it's one of those taboo subjects with agents, and also have a transparent conversation about money. And percentages of commission. That should be natural discussions, and I think we shouldn't be shying away from those conversations. And I think in that world, it's often shied away from. So I think we got to get over that. Right? Everybody's here to make money at the end of the day, and then same with the brands. The brands, at the end of the day, are also there to make money. It's transactional. We can build relationships and friendships, but business is business, and so it has to be mutually beneficial.
Exactly.
Right? And I think you've done a great job of fundamentally getting that. And I think that's another piece that athletes and influencers have to get, where they also go, oh, well, they're just so happy to be partnered with me because I'm me. Like, don't be delusional. There's a business component to this.
For sure.
Right? So that's important too. And so anyways, I mean, we could go on about that forever. We have a really fun EQ&A. We're calling it rapid fire. And so wanted to, and you can't, get ready. There's no thinking. You just have to go. It's only 10, 10 for 10.
I don't know what is going to come up in my head. Dangerous.
Rapid fire. You just have to go and say the answer right away. Here we go.
Okay.
EQ&A. What is your favorite animal?
A panther.
What is your
A pink panther just showed up in my head. It's not even a real animal.
That's fine. Okay. People get to know you with this quick rapid fire. What is your favorite?
Yeah, she's weird. She said she was weird. Yeah, she just solidified it there.
For sure. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Yikes.
No, this is not rapid fire.
Sorry. Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Sorry, it is.
What were you afraid of as a child?
The dark.
Okay.
I was.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Mine was elevators. Who do you text the most?
Probably you. For sure.
Well, that's because it's about money. It's not about anything. We're not texting about anything else.
We're hustling.
Okay, good. What word do you hate hearing?
Fine. Oh my God, I hate that word.
Who is your hero?
You?
No! Wrong answer! No, you're doing that again.
It just changes.
Oh my God. Who is your hero?
Every time I'm about to say someone, I'm like,
oh, I don't know about that. Okay, I'll come back to that.
Okay, my mom.
Beautiful. Yes. Okay, what is your favorite body part?
On myself or on guys?
On you. What?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Next. What is your favorite word in another language? This is not rapid fire.
It's not. Oh, andiamo. I don't know
What does that mean?
It's Italian.
Do we know what it means?
They just say it all the time.
Okay. Do we know what it means, or we don't?
Let's go, maybe, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What is your favorite dessert?
Tiramisu.
Beautiful. If you had, sorry, there you go. If you had to change your first name, what would you change it to?
Yikes. Oh, I had a fake name I used to use all the time.
Okay.
Mariah. People were eating it up.
There you go.
Oh, I guess people really like this name.
There you go. There you go. Okay, good. Okay, that was it. It was short and sweet. We failed on a bunch.
Oh,
but
I'm so bad at these.
that's okay. We failed on a bunch. Okay. So this is so good. This is so good, so good. I think in closing, we talk a lot about, lessons learned, and there was a tagline that I was actually given from my dad, and he said, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. So, because you will lose in life, and it's just get yourself back up and learn from that.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest lesson that you have not lost?
Learning how to protect my energy.
Ooh. Yeah, we need a lot of time for that one. A lot of time for that. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've learned the value I bring.
Okay.
And I've learned people who also value it and those who want to take advantage of it.
Sure.
And deciphering between that.
Okay.
And just also how to love myself deeply to be able to decipher that. And show up for the ones that I love the most at my best. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So that'll be your don't lose.
Yes, because there are people trying to steal that. There are people trying to tear it down. There are people trying to do all sorts of things. And I could have easily just let them.
Sure.
But I had to rebuild myself.
Yeah.
And I also had to make sure that I wasn't going to let it happen again.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
So good. Well, that was amazing. I'm so excited.
Questions.
And I'm so happy you joined us on EQ&A.
I'm
For
honored.
our first episode. And make sure, folks, to subscribe.
Hit that bell so you know the notifications anytime Dakota posts a new video.
There we go. Thanks so much for watching.